Have you ever wondered how Tom Riddle found the Chamber of Secrets? Hey, brother! In year 2, after the chamber is opened, the students rush to learn about it, but nobody really seems to have any existing knowledge about the chamber itself, which is kind of crazy since it was opened just 50 years ago and someone died. Heck, some of the same staff is even still at the school. Looking at you, Dumbledore. Hermione herself is at a loss, having left her copy of Hogwarts history at home. The same reason everybody wants it, said Hermione, to read up on the legend of the Chamber of Secrets. What's that? Said Harry quickly. That's just it. I can't remember, said Hermione, biting her lip, and I can't find the story anywhere else. Oh, you're telling me Hermione can't remember something that's in Hogwarts history? I mean, I'm sorry, but that just means it's not in there.
I read about it in Hogwarts history.
My point is, in the present, the students have a good reason they could know about the chamber, but when Tom Riddle is at the school, how on earth does he even know to look for it? Hasn't the chamber been closed for centuries? Does he have reason to believe he is the heir of Slytherin? We know he is very interested in his heritage and eventually tracks down the Gaunts and his father and paternal grandparents, which is when he gets the ring and makes it into a horcrux. But Dumbledore says the diary was the first horcrux. The careless way in which Voldemort regarded this horcrux seemed most ominous to me. It suggested that he must have made, or been planning to make, more horcruxes, so that the loss of his first would not be so detrimental. I did not wish to believe it, but nothing else seemed to make sense. I'll tell you what's not making sense is the discovery of the deeply hidden, highly secretive room that you have no idea even exists. Heck, even if Tom knew of the legend of the chamber, how could he have even located the secret entrance in the girls' bathroom of all places? There is nothing special pointing him there, and he's not even the first person to ever have looked for it. Professor Bin says the castle has been searched many times, and 1,000 years of searching have never led anyone to discover it. But out of nowhere, a kid who doesn't know the legend or has any reason to think that he's related to Slytherin just happens upon it? I mean, even when Harry miraculously finds it, it's only because Tom Riddle had first, and the victim of his opening is literally still in the same room. Where exactly did you see the eyes? Said Harry. Somewhere there, said Myrtle, pointing vaguely toward the sink in front of her toilet. But guys, we have cracked it. Today we reveal how Tom Riddle found the Chamber of Secrets. Brother! But guys, we need to take a brief pause right there to give a huge thank you to today's sponsor, BetterHelp. You know that feeling when you just need to get something off your chest? For me, it almost always feels like you're holding your breath underwater for a long time. But when you finally share that secret or talk about what's been bothering you with someone you trust, it's like coming up for air. Honestly, it can be the best feeling even if it's a hard conversation. So often you just have no idea just how much it's actually been weighing you down. This has been huge for me. I am a classic people pleaser and hate letting people down or coming to someone with hard or bad news. But thanks to therapy, I have gotten so much better at realizing that it's far worse to hold on to it. And in many cases, the people in my life are actually grateful that I finally spoke up. And that doesn't just provide you with a huge amount of mental relief, but it also forges better communication skills with the people in your life, which generally leads to smoother sailing going forward. I'm a huge believer in therapy to build these skills, and if you're thinking of trying it out, give BetterHelp a try. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Get it off your chest with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/super today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/super. Link is in the description down below. Okay, how did Tom Riddle find the chamber? Because remember, Tom is raised in a muggle orphanage, doesn't know he's a wizard, believes his mom was a muggle, and has zero leads on his own heritage. The trick to solving this was deciphering a few unusually phrased sentences by Dumbledore and then doing a bunch of tricky year math, but don't worry y'all, we paid the math budget. The first line that we have is one that we've actually already brought up. It's when Dumbledore says that the diary is the first horcrux. It suggested that he must have made or been planning to make more horcruxes so that the loss of his first would not be so detrimental. I did not wish to believe it, but nothing else seemed to make sense. But here's the thing, the diary is just not the first horcrux. What Dumbledore actually means is just that the diary was the most likely to be destroyed, and that even Voldemort probably realized that. Voldemort always knew that he wanted someone to read it and reopen the chamber so he could get credit for being Slytherin's heir. Well, he didn't want his hard work to be wasted, said Harry. He wanted people to know he was Slytherin's heir because he couldn't take the credit at the time. Quite correct, said Dumbledore, nodding. And you can argue with that sentiment if you want, but really that must be what Dumbledore meant, because the fact is the diary just isn't the first Horcrux that Voldemort made. But not to worry, because I too, for the longest time, have believed that the diary came first. 20 years later though, it's kind of blowing my mind that I did not realize that I had the order of the Horcruxes wrong for this entire time. But I feel like if I didn't know, I can only assume that the mystery looms large over the fandom, and today we're going to set the record straight. The ring is actually the first Horcrux, and the information has been sitting in front of us the entire time. It all comes down to this poorly worded sentence by Dumbledore. In the summer of his 16th year, he left the orphanage to which he returned annually and set off to find his gaunt relatives. Now, this is the problem. 16th year is a bonkers way to phrase this age because it sounds like he is 16, but he's not. He's 15. And things are only made even more confusing because Voldemort is born on December 31st, the day before New Year's. And it could sound like we're splitting hairs here, but trust me, it will make sense. And if I told you that like my daughter Addie had trouble sleeping in her first year, you wouldn't think that I meant after she turned 1 year old. It would be during her first year of life, the period between being born and turning 1, her first year. So the summer of his 16th year is the summer before his 5th year at Hogwarts, which starts in the fall of 1942 and ends in the spring of 1943. Got it?
Brilliant.
But with that clarified, literally everything else about this situation starts to make way more sense. Because we know that Tom Riddle is in his 5th year at Hogwarts when he opened the chamber last, and he himself tells Harry this inside of the diary flashback. Of course I know about the Chamber of Secrets. In my day, they told us it was a legend, that it did not exist. But this was a lie. In my 5th year, the chamber was opened, and the monster attacked several students, finally killing one. But as we've previously pointed out, how on earth would he know where the Chamber of Secrets is during this year? And that's where the Horcrux order becomes extremely vital information, specifically because of where, or more importantly, who he gets the ring from. The Gaunts. Here's more context from our line from before. All he had to go on was the single name Marvolo, which he knew from those who ran the orphanage had been his mother's father's name. Finally, after painstaking research through old books of wizarding families, he discovered the existence of Slytherin's surviving line. In the summer of his 16th year, he left the orphanage, to which he returned annually and set off to find his gaunt relatives. So, young 15-year-old Tom Riddle's discovery and timing for this visit are very important to keep in mind. The summer of his 16th year would be the summer after he's completed year 4 at Hogwarts. But all of his research would bring him to the Gaunt Shack, where he runs into his uncle, Morphin, who, Riddle learns, also speaks Parseltongue, and tells him he looks like the handsome muggle Tom Riddle. "I thought she was that muggle," whispered Morphin. "You look mighty like that muggle." "What muggle?" said Riddle sharply. "That muggle what my sister took a fancy to, that muggle that lives in the big house over the way," said Morphin, and he spat unexpectedly upon the floor between them. "You look right like him, Riddle, but he's older now, isn't he? He's older than you now, I think on it." This is the first time that Tom learns the identity of his father, and we know it's on this same occasion that he frames Morphin for the murder of his father, which he actually commits, and uses his death to convert the Peverell ring into what we now believe is his first Horcrux. What's important about this exchange, though, is that there's a lot of information missing from it. This all has to do with Tom wiping his uncle's memory and leading him to believe that he actually committed the crime himself. But before his memory is wiped, we know that Morphin asks about Slytherin's locket. Riddle came back? "Arr, he left her, and serve her right, Marion filth," said Morphin, spitting on the floor again. "Robbed us, mind, before she ran off. Where's the locket, eh? Where's Slytherin's locket?" The locket has, of course, already been sold by Tom's mother, Merope, to Mr. Borgin of Borgin and Burkes, his own future employer and target for future Horcrux, which he eventually does succeed in recovering from Hepzibah Smith. Time and story will also eventually inform us that each of the Founder's artifacts have unique magical characteristics to them. Gryffindor's sword is goblin-made, will absorb anything that makes it stronger, and will appear to a Gryffindor in need. Ravenclaw Ravenclaw's diadem is of course said to make the wearer more intelligent. Hufflepuff's cup we don't learn the specifics about, but Hepzibah tells Tom, "This has been handed down in the family for years and years. Lovely, isn't it? All sorts of powers it's supposed to possess too, but I haven't tested them thoroughly." And while the powers of the locket have never been described, we here at SuperCarlinBrothers have long believed that it contained the instructions on how to enter the Chamber of Secrets. The idea being that the only way to open the locket is exactly how Harry does it in the Forest of Dean, speaking Parseltongue to it. And this is a perfect defense, as only Slytherin's own heirs would be capable of speaking it, and therefore the only ones who can enter his chamber. It's honestly kind of elegant, right? So the idea here is that the Gaunts, who have been in possession of the locket for their whole lives, very well could know the location of the Chamber of Secrets thanks to the locket. In fact, that part isn't even a guess. We know that from the Pottermore archives, that the chamber was in fact open between Slytherin's departure and Tom Riddle's arrival at the school. However, when Hogwarts plumbing became more elaborate in the 18th century, the entrance of the chamber was threatened. Being located on the site of a proposed bathroom, the presence in school at the time of a student called Corvinus Gaunt, direct descendant of Slytherin and antecedent of Tom Riddle, explains how the simple trapdoor was secretly protected, so that those who knew could still access entrance to the chamber even after newfangled plumbing had been placed on top of it. So you might be thinking, well, that's all well and fine, but you yourself mentioned the locket is nowhere to be found. Merope sold it. And that is true, but asking about the whereabouts of the locket is essentially the last meaningful thing that Morphin says before his memory goes completely blank, meaning whatever came next, Tom Riddle was sure to erase from history. Now, we of course have no way to verify that Morphin would have explained what he may have known about the locket, but we do know that Tom eventually goes to great lengths to track it down. But even beyond that, if we just continue our reading from the Pottermore archives, we get this extra bit of information. The Gaunt family could not resist boasting of their knowledge, as nobody else could hear the creature sliding beneath the floorboards, or laterally, through the plumbing. They did not have many believers, and none until Riddle dared unleash the monster on the castle. So the Gaunts alone knew the location of the Chamber of Secrets. They were also known in possession of Slytherin's locket, and they were boastful about their knowledge of the location of the Chamber of Secrets. We also have great reason to believe that Tom visited them on just the one occasion that happened to be on the summer before his 5th year at Hogwarts, where he is made prefect and, wait for it, opens the Chamber of Secrets. And it's all because we've all had the order for the horcruxes wrong this whole time, but it continues to add up. In Harry's 6th year, he's trying to track down Slughorn's memory, in which we know Voldemort already has the ring because he's wearing it, and in the memory, he is asking Slughorn about making more horcruxes.
Can you only split the soul once?
I always thought that he'd already made 2 at that point and was just asking about making 7, but it turns out he's only got 1 and also asking about making just more than that, which then immediately leads to Myrtle's death later that year. All the more reason for Slughorn to feel so immensely guilty about the entire affair. Just having a conversation about horcruxes in and of itself seems bad. Having a conversation about horcruxes and then someone showing up dead? That's why you erase it. But honestly, guys, this whole thing started because we were just trying to figure out the order, and Jay and I were having a big conversation and a big back and forth about whether or not it was the diary first or the ring. And when we started peeling back these layers, we were like, what if the ring is actually what led to the opening of the chamber, which is what leads to the diary, and then everything seemed to just fall perfectly into place. But there you go, guys. As always, be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you'd like to find out more about our thoughts from way back in the day about how the locket was capable of containing the secret of the Chamber of Secrets, you can do so with this video right over here. But otherwise, until next time, bye!